What up, though, Abbott Elementary fans, or should I say elementarians? Let's see if we can get some consistency on the name that we're going to call ourselves. I'm your host for this episode, and I'm going to be talking to you about everything you need to know following the winter break, in universe and out of universe, for Abbott Elementary Season 4, going into Part 2. Alright, so if you haven't caught it up to it now, if you haven't really registered what's going on, the main thing for this season is gentrification. And not just gentrification, but also the effects it has on the established population, as well as its use as a socio-economic weapon for change. But that's a lot of words for you, and you're really not here to get that deep into stuff. Gentrification! So, if you've missed it, it's not your fault. It's okay because it was played in the subtext. It wasn't really brought out and named until episode 6, the deli. So, the long and short of the central conflict for this season 4 by the way, is gentrification, and it's done by, or it's explained by, there's a golf course moving right across the street from Abbott Elementary. And the reason this is a problem is because Abbott Elementary is a predominantly black school in a neighborhood that racially looks the same as the school. That's to say it's predominantly black. So you have this high-end thing, I'm going to say this high-end thing, place, whatever, coming in, and that tends to bring change in the form of gentrifying, which means to change the racial, social, or economic makeup of an established area or neighborhood. And typically this is done by raising the property values, which doesn't sound like a bad thing until you consider two situations most likely to face the people who are already there. The first is that as the property value increases, the taxes likewise increase on that property. So if you had, say, a $100,000 house and you paid $1,000 in taxes, just make some really easy numbers, that was manageable. That was probably manageable for you. I own some properties where the taxes are low and you get to split the tax payment. So instead of paying $1,000 all in one whop at the end of the year, you pay two $500 payments. That's so easy. But then with the golf course coming and gentrifying and changing things around you, your house value gets raised. So that $100,000 house is now worth $180,000. And your $1,000 taxes that you pay at the end of the year is now $1,800. That's $800 more than you had already planned for. That's $800 more than you had ever budgeted for. That's almost double. Times are hard and people don't have extra money, which means that you're not going to be able to afford the taxes on that house. You're either going to have to fall behind or have to sell. And there's the problem. When you sell, you're probably not going to sell to people who look like you, people who look like the racial makeup of that neighborhood. You're going to have to sell to somebody who doesn't. And your situation is not unique. You're in that situation. Your neighbors across the street, down the road, you're all in those same situations. So one by one, you're selling off parts of the neighborhood to people who don't look like the people who are already represented in the neighborhood, which causes it to change over time. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just what it is. And it is oftentimes used as a form of class warfare, but we're not here for that. We're here to talk about Abbott Elementary. So the second situation is, if you're young or if you're looking to get into a neighborhood, again, say you grew up in that $1,000 home with $100,000 home with $1,000 taxes. You get yourself a job, and unlike all the other young people around you, you set aside money, right? You set aside money. You're going to get money to get a house in the place that you grew up with. You want to stay in that neighborhood. Except 2 years ago, the golf course moved in across the street, and now that $100,000 house is worth $180,000. People already don't have money to put 20% down like they used to. So on a $100,000 house, you only have to save $20,000. On a $180,000 house, you got to save a lot more. I didn't pay the math budget, y'all. I didn't pay the math budget, so I'm not going to math it out. I'll just put it here and get it in post. But you have to save a lot more than $20,000, which means that you're not likely to be able to live in the neighborhood you grew up in and buy into it. You'll have to go elsewhere, thus changing the racial, social, and economic makeup of that neighborhood. And again, if you missed all this stuff, it's been played in the subtext until episode 6 where they come out and name and shame it. So you're not bad, you didn't miss anything. And you see this happening right from the get-go, right from episode 1, back to school, where the very first scene, I believe it is, the Abbott staff is convinced Miles Nathaniel, who's the golf course representative, presumably from the PGA, but we'll see. He's the golf course lawyer, to bribe them, right? And you also see this very heavy, like I said, in episode 6, The Deli, where, you know, they name it, I think it's the first like explicit mention of gentrification and changing the neighborhood, and you get to see everybody's different part of that, which is kind of cool. So they want to change the local deli, right, John's Deli, and to replace it with a fruit. There it is. You also see it later on in the season where Janine's class is using crayons to color portraits of themselves, and Charlie, that's the kid's name, when she hands him a color that's more representative of his skin tone, and she says, we sure have a lot of those that we haven't used yet. And there's more. In fact, I got a whole prediction for how gentrification ties into the season and how the season ends. So if y'all want to see something like that, hit me up in the comments below to let me know this is the kind of content that you want to see. Again, this is an Abbott Elementary fan channel, so the kind of content y'all want to see is the kind of content that I want to produce. So hit me up. So with the whole overarching theme out the way, let's start talking about where each of your favorite characters are, starting with... That's right, Ava Coleman. You gotta love her. Either you love her or you hate her, and baby, I love her. Let me tell you. Her tie-in to this season theme is that she's the enabler. Now, she knows her staff is taking bribes from the golf course manager, but as long as it doesn't affect her negatively, she doesn't care. And really, if she can benefit from that, y'all know the girl Ava's gonna get in on that, right? Outside of the theme of gentrification, Ava's also had a few story beats of personal development going on with herself. For example, Manny. Yes, Manny is back, y'all. I am loving every scene that he is in. Give us more Manny, Quinta. Give us more Manny. Manny reached out to Ava herself to deliver remarks at a district ed talk for the other principals. And you can see this in episode 6, The Deli. She wouldn't admit it. Well, first of all, she wasn't really going to do it because y'all know Ava's all about that coin and trying to squeeze out whatever she can. Once she found out it was a non-paying position, she was turned off. She wasn't really going to do it. She tried, but I don't really feel like she tried all that hard to do it. So when they butted heads and it was like, oh, I'm not going to do it. Out of nowhere, actually, it was Janine. Janine is the one who convinced her to keep at it, although Ava won't admit it. And through Janine's advice, she was able to do it, and do it very well. And she focused on talking to the other principals about the why she does the certain things versus the what she does. Because let's be for real, Ava Coleman can be outside, we're right up against the box, but more often than not, she's a whole mile over the line. She's a habitual line crosser. But no, she did very well. She even came to say that she loved doing it, which is a bit of character development because Ava wouldn't do anything for free or anything that wouldn't benefit her directly. Now, she did, however, find out that people do get paid to do speaking engagements, and I think that's going to come back into the final part of the season, or maybe even another season. Again, if y'all want to see some theories about how this season ends, drop them down in the comment section below. Not just getting her flowers for being a principal, y'all, things are heating up with O'Shawn, and I am here for it. Let's talk about it. O'Shawn seems to be the only one who can match Ava's energy, alright? Go back to episode 3, Class Pet. Right, when they were talking, well, he was trying to get her attention, and he was like, I need to talk to you. And she was like, who are you talking to? And he was like, you! And stared her down. Boy, man is unafraid. Man is unafraid. I'm here for it. You can also see some flirtation in episode 7, Winter Show. You know, he mentioned that the angel on the tree also looks a lot like Ava. He gave her some pointers, you know, just his way. He gave her some pointers about how they could change the winter show into a holiday show so that everybody could participate. And she took his ideas, but she didn't make it known. She didn't let him know she was taking his ideas. And he said, you know what? I might just stick around. And she acted like she wasn't for it, but She got that pretty smile when she left. She was smirking to herself. I'm loving this, especially as a contrast to Gregory and Janine's relationship. We need some more O'Shawn. Give it to us. Actually, I would love to see this relationship go somewhere. I got a whole prediction for how season 4 ends, and he's actually a key part of it. Again, down below in the comment section. And then, out of nowhere, and I wish I didn't have to tell y'all because the reveal is amazing, but that's what I'm here for. So, out of nowhere, we find out that Ava Coleman has another Coleman family member in Philly. Now, if you've been paying attention, you know she has a grandma. You know there's a mom somewhere in Philly, but we didn't know she had a dad. Well, we knew she had a dad. That's how she got here, but we didn't know if she had like a relationship with her dad or even if he was still alive. And her dad turns out to be none other than the one, the only Commander Shepard himself, the President of the United States, Keith David. Yes, I lost my mind when I seen that they had brought Keith David into the Abbott Elementary universe. I don't know whose decision it was to make that casting, but give them a raise, or at least give them the flowers. Now, it was disappointing a little bit that Keith David was only on screen for a couple of minutes, and considering that Keith David is an A-list actor, an A-list star who's always on fire, I really hope they do something with this. I mean, they wouldn't bring Keith David into the Abbott universe and then only give him a couple minutes of screen time, would they? I know I hope they do something with it, but I hope what they do with it isn't patch up the relationship. I hope they don't do with her, and his name is Frank. I hope they don't do with Ava and Frank what they did with Krista Marie and Melissa. Not for everybody, and it's not that I'm hating on Ava, and I do love Keith David as well, but I feel it's more realistic. Not everybody has a warm and fuzzy relationship with their family. And honestly, being real, it does seem like having a fraught or troubled relationship with your family seems to be par for the course for Abbott Elementary. I mean, Jacob, Janine, Gregory kinda, Melissa. And speaking of, let's talk about what's going on with Jacob. Is one of those ones I read online. He's not polarizing, but I don't think a lot of people get Jacob, or I think they're they're just missing Jacob. I love Jacob, and I love that he has such a strong tie into this season's theme. Jacob finally succeeded in rallying people for a cause, y'all. He's been talking about being a change agent. We know that he did some teaching in Africa and all that stuff, but we never actually got to see him unite people until episode 6, The Deli. Again, go and watch episode 6 if you haven't, because you get to see your man do what he wanted to do this whole time, was rally people. Literally. He got the neighborhood to rally against losing Junt's Deli for a fruit. There it is. And in true Jacob fashion, this was just as everyone else was starting to come to terms with getting a fruits. There it is. So, hey. So the season starts off with Jacob being the reason why everybody gets ringworm in Abbott's outside but right up against the box episode about COVID called Ringworm, episode 2. So I guess in this case, the C in Mr. C stands for Mr. Can't Contain Contagious Contagions. Because, I mean, bruh, did you not see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes? Did you not see Bird Box? Did you not see 20 Days Later, my dude? But, like I said earlier, my man gets his moment in the sun as a change agent when he's in episode 6, The Deli. I love the way they phrase it, because he goes in and he talks about, well, you know, I did this, and I'm working with the blacks, and you just see everybody's face go, what? But in this case, I mean, y'all know Jacob, y'all know he don't mean it like that. So in this case, Blacks is actually a local organization called Building Love and Kids Safety. And it's with this organization that he works to activate the local neighborhood to do a canvassing campaign. He goes out with flyers and all this kinds of stuff. We also get to see a big moment of development. We also get to see a first-hand glimpse into Jacob's backstory and his family and upbringing in season 4, episode 8, Winter Break. And I'm liking that Jacob is finally getting some time in the sun. I know we had Story Samurai and I know we had Holiday Hookah, but this was a real... I felt it was a real Jacob-centered episode, and we hadn't got one like this in a while. If you haven't watched it, or if you did and you missed it, the recap is that Caleb comes to town, and Caleb is his younger brother, and he seems to just naturally overshadow Jacob in everything. He's not only outgoing, he's likable. No one dislikes him at first meeting, and it drives Jacob absolutely nuts. So we get a similar vibe to Caleb, just as we did Mr. Morton when we met him. In the first episode, we meet Mr. Morton, which is Egg Drop. All you see is Mr. Morton seemingly being nice to Jacob, and you're like, Jacob's being like, oh, I can't stand that guy, I loathe that guy, he's poking the bear, and you're just like, is this all made up? Is it all in Jacob's head, or is there really something there? And we get those same vibes with Caleb. Jacob is treating Caleb badly. Jacob is telling everybody how Caleb is such a bad person, and we really get those same vibes like, dang, is this nice guy really not such a nice guy? And the conflict of the episode is that Jacob walks in on Caleb seeming to be telling bad stuff about Jacob or just dissing him in a podcast. And Jacob, of course, goes over the edge. He overreacts. He thinks he's doing well, but in the grand scheme of things, he's not. And you got to give it to Gregory and their relationship that they've been building, because it's Gregory who encourages Jacob to give his brother a second chance. And not just a second chance, an honest and earnest second chance at having a positive relationship as adults. And speaking on that, am I the only one? Am I the only one who's really liking these two male teachers bonding and having these kinds of moments? It can't just be me, right? It's not just me. I love it that they're each other's go-to when it comes to being vulnerable and talking about deep issues. This is some stuff that doesn't get shown a lot in TV. This is some stuff that even in real life, people say, I wish men would be more expressive. I wish men would open up. And for a lot of guys feel that when they do, it doesn't go well. So I love it that for Gregory and Jacob, can we give them a name? We already got a Jaggery. Jacob? Put it down in the comments below. But I love it that for Gregory and Jacob, they're each other's go-to. Quinta, if you ever see this video, baby, please give us more of this. Give us more of this. So in the end, Jacob and Caleb not only squashed their beef, which has been simmering for years. Remind you, Jacob said that he moved away from his family as early as he could. So I'm again imagining he's 17, 18-ish, and he moved away. These two didn't really have a good time, you know, and didn't really have a good relationship since then. They not only squashed their beef, they tag team in the next episode to talk Melissa's Uncle Archie out of his life. And speaking of our favorite redhead, let's talk about... Alright, Melissa, oh man, I love Melissa. She is just absolutely amazing. And she really gets to shine in season 4, right? She's one of the central pillars of tying into the season theme of gentrification. She is the co-ringleader of taking bribes from Miles and Nathaniel. She's the one who started it. And she's benefited from every transaction, and she continues to benefit. Melissa's going to make sure she gets something out of all of these. So far, she's taken gym equipment. She's taken a parachute. Well, the school took a parachute. They took bribes. They took computers. They've taken more. And it was really Melissa starting and Melissa's doing. After the fiasco with the vending machine guy and Jalen Hurts, Melissa is finally in a loving, rewarding, and fulfilling relationship with someone. And I could not be happier. No one could command more of her heart than Sweet Cheeks. What? You thought I was going to say Captain Robinson? So, unless you've never had a crush on someone or you just live under a rock, Melissa's had it bad for Sweet Cheeks since episode 3, Class Pet. In that episode, she built Sweet Cheeks, which is a guinea pig. She built Sweet Cheeks a custom house to sleep in. She was making it food. She was reading to it. And she did what we all do to show our undying love. She pretended to kill it off and convinced the 2nd grade elementary class that it was dead so that they wouldn't take it home and accidentally kill it themselves or worse. What? You've never done that? Ever? Not even once? Well, maybe you never been in love like I've been in love. I don't know. I mean, y'all, she loves Sweet Cheeks so much, she even cosplayed as Sweet Cheeks for Halloween and looked absolutely adorable doing it. Look at him. She even made Sweet Cheeks a costume. Seeing her like this made me want to just bring her home and then lay her on a pile of wood shavings at the foot of my bed and just kind of rub her fur till she fell asleep, or until the woman I pledged my life to kicks her out because she doesn't get down like that. So, yeah. Either way, it sounds like a really good day for me. In the first part of season 4, we also learn more about Melissa's family. Namely that they're your typical family of ball busters that most of us grew up with if you were born before 2001. Her family's got a lot of blowback online for being mean and toxic, but I feel like those people are not understanding what's going on. They don't understand that culture, both Italian and the more boomer culture, but they're overlooking two main things. One is that Melissa gives just as good as she gets. She has instant clapbacks for Kristen Marie, Uncle Archie, and Seamus, just to name a few, when they come to visit her in episode 8, Winter Break. Not only that, this family may be using words that sound harsh to us outsiders, but you can tell there's genuine love there and you don't even have to look hard for it. For example, you don't cook for people you genuinely hate. And on the other side of the coin, you don't eat food from people you don't trust. That alone should have been y'all's clue that at the end of the day, everyone embraced and talked about the fun they had. Everyone in here has genuine love for each other. No matter what it sounds like. And oh yeah, she's still in that relationship with Captain Robinson, aka Mike O'Malley, aka the host of Global Guts and one of the big part of my childhood. And she admits that it's pretty serious, but it's not see the whole family when they're at peak crazy seriousness. So, huzzah for love! Speaking of love, that brings us to Barbara's had it going on this season, and her tie into the theme of gentrification is that she's the other co-ringleader of taking bribes from Miles Nathaniel. Her and Melissa started it, and just like Melissa, she continues to benefit as well. She's there, and she's taking the same bribes, and she's getting hers just as Melissa's getting hers out of it. First off, let me start by saying that I don't want to be anywhere near Barbara when the zombie apocalypse kicks off, because as we've seen in episode 2, Ringworm, the COVID episode, she'll be one of those people that thinks she's magically protected, gets bitten, and then doesn't say anything. Don't believe me? I got 2 words for you. Ringworm. Not only that, Barbara found herself on the wrong side of history with the Bobbing for Apples episode. I'm not sure if it was in this season or not, but people wasn't feeling it. But Barbara's really big on tradition, alright? Y'all know how hard she took it in season 1, episode 13, I believe, where they were tied to Tautara, right? She was also a resistor of having the learning pads in the reading episode in the 1st or 2nd season. And even though Cree Summers as Miss Inez did a fantastic job as the librarian, she was trying to manipulate Janine into not changing it just because Barbara doesn't like change. But Barbara also got some highlights this season too. In episode 7, Winter Show, Barbara has Khadijah, who's a Muslim girl in the show, and they were picking on her because of her faith, she couldn't participate in a Christmas play. So Barbara changed the whole play around from not just Christmas, but to a holiday play, just so one more student, which made all of her students, be able to participate in the show. And a lot of people people were stunned by this, and I think those people just frankly don't know any examples of good Christians who model the behavior that Jesus the Christ prescribed for his followers. And that behavior was to love your neighbor as yourself. So Barb switching the play up so all of her students could be included, it's on brand. Not just that, but Christians and Muslims don't actually hate each other as a whole. As 2 groups, they're not enemies. Devout followers of both sides would tell you that they're brothers of the faith, or brothers of the cloth is the phrase I heard growing up. Just as Isaac and Ishmael were. They both have a common ancestor in Father Abraham. So if this was your first exposure to good Christians and what good Christianity is, then I'm glad I get to be the one to show it to you. Huzzah! Not just the depth of her relationship with her students, but we get to see the depth of her relationship with Melissa in particular in episode 8, Winter Break, where Jacob's all like, Melissa's uncle's dead and she wants to carry on. And the first thing Barbara does is go to Melissa and make sure that she's okay. And once she knows that Melissa's okay, and Melissa wants to continue to carry on, Barbara goes on and supports her friend. No questions asked. It's not that this is, it's nothing like this is crazy, we shouldn't do it. I'm sure she has reservations, but Barbara and Melissa are in-universe friends, and they have been friends for a long time, and I love that we get to see these episodes. We get to see episodes where this is going on. We also get to see that Melissa is the only one that Barbara will listen to. Outside of Melissa and Barbara's relationship, we learn a little bit more about Barbara and Gerald, and that is that Gerald can eat. Oh my God, can he put it away? And without further ado, let's talk about everybody's favorite military brat. So after being very important for a couple of seasons, 1, 2, and so on, Gregory doesn't really have a tie-in to this season's theme of gentrification, right? He hasn't really tied into the season theme as of yet, and he wasn't really on board for saving Junt's sub shop. Actually, in the phrase of my culture, it be your own people. Gregory was actually looking forward to getting the fruit there it is. He's a fan, he's a member. So most of Gregory's character development has happened in the context of his relationship with Janine. But before we get into his relationship with Janine, he did have some moments. He did have some moments where he's been highlighted in this season. Particularly episode 6, Dad Fight. In this episode, he's challenged to an actual fist fight with the student's dad. But y'all know Gregory. He's principled, he's disciplined. He doesn't fight him. We knew he wasn't going to fight him. Instead of hitting the dad with his fist, he hits him with a line that we're both on this kid's team. And if we fight each other, we're no longer on the same team. If I hit you, I'll become something else entirely to that child. And I'm not willing to let that happen. So he fights by not fighting. But not fighting is not fighting, so he doesn't fight. In a blink and you'll miss it detail, we find out that Gregory's garden goofballs from season 3, those students he was teaching the garden about, he's teaching about life through gardening, they killed all the plants. But the biggest thing, as I said about Gregory this season, is that he is finally, Gregory and Janine, or Jeggery, is finally a thing. And that seems to be... I love their relationship, that it really does seem to be one of their own. Or as Ava says, but it's not all sunshine and roses, especially from the fandom. Some of y'all are giving some real big backlash for the Jeggery, for Janine and Gregory's relationship. You're saying they're not displaying enough PDA, they're going too slow, and that they're being too low-key about it. And I'm here about it. I'm here for it. And this is just one of those things where I see it differently than y'all, but it doesn't mean that either one of us is wrong. You know what I'm saying? I really do feel like those of you who are saying that about the relationship aren't understanding two things about these characters, especially Gregory. And the first is that they, and especially he, are private. In season 1, Gregory ate lunch all by himself, typically alone in his car. It was boiled chicken. Yeah, both of their kisses was caught on camera, but, and this is especially for the second one, they were impromptu, and they took what steps they could to make them private and keep the camera crew away. In the season finale of season 3, last season, Gregory closed the door to give them some distance, and when he saw that they weren't giving them the distance that they wanted, he even shut the blind. This isn't the kind of couple that will be all lovey-dovey in public. And don't forget that the A plot for episode 1, Back to School, was Janine working overtime, keeping their relationship a secret, even though everybody already knew. Which brings me to the second part. They're teachers in an elementary school. Of course they're not going to be hugging and kissing and not be all over each other in front of the kids. Instead, their love is played more subtextually, right? Gregory, who's definitely not a germaphobe, he's just very prepared. Season 4, episode 2, ringworm. Broke down and was spending time with Janine after work, knowing that he's likely to get ringworm. On Christmas Eve, so season 4, episode 8, when he does a little kiss on her forehead for Christmas Eve. That's the kind of things that show that they have some genuine love for each other. If y'all thought they was going to be hot, steamy kissing on camera, in universe or out of universe, nah, wrong one. We also see some realism from the couple in that we get to see their first fight on camera, but I'll cover that when I talk about. And just like Gregory, Janine hasn't really had a strong tie into the theme of gentrification for the season yet. And I mean, it's Quinta Brunson, and she's the show's creator and producer. So I guess she doesn't have to be in the spotlight all the time because whether she's in front of the camera or behind the camera, she's the main driving force. But yeah, when it comes to gentrification, she had no part in saving the sub shot, Gemtoes. So like Gregory, most of her character development happens in the context of her relationship with Gregory. But isn't that awesome though? We finally get to see Janine in a fulfilling relationship with someone who's as into her as she is into him. Her first boyfriend, literally her first boyfriend, Tariq, was a mooch who coasted on their longevity, right? We know they started dating in like 8th grade, and by the end of it, you could really tell that one of them was trying more than the other. And this is me, and I know y'all don't agree a lot, but I never really felt like she was into Maurice. I felt like he was a Mr. Right now, not a Mr. Right. Or, as my homegirls have put me into the concept, a stepping stone dude. He's not the guy you'll end up with, but he'll get you to where you need to go. I also love that Gregory and Janine have a realistic relationship. It's not all sunshine and roses. As I said, we get to see their first fight on camera. Well, we get to see their first camera on fight. But, I mean, it's really a disagreement. So, the crux of the issue with their fight is that Janine found out that Gregory and Ava was keeping a secret from her. And that secret was that Gregory had met Frank, Ava's dad, Keith David, but didn't tell Janine or Ava. And when Janine found out, she didn't really apologize to Gregory on camera. So I'm going to break this down a little bit for you. So the first part is, why was Janine even mad? And I know y'all online were saying that her being upset and not apologizing to Gregory fell out of character for her, but I disagree. I feel that all three of them were very much themselves, especially Janine. Between Tariq and Maurice, it's easy to see that she has trust issues when it comes to her boyfriends and people that she loves who are male. With Tariq, he definitely took advantage of her goodwill on several occasions. Watch all of season 1, any of season 1. You're going to find examples. They even made it seem in the final episode 13 I believe, that Tariq had already known about having to move or wanting to move to New York for a long minute before he even told Janine. As for Maurice, it was her who betrayed his trust when she kissed Gregory, episode 13. But she really took it to heart when Maurice called her selfish. Go back and watch the episode and you'll see how Maurice calling Janine selfish negatively affected Janine's relationship with Gregory that same day. So I can totally see why she'd be upset with Gregory. As for not apologizing to Gregory right away, I think y'all are being too hard on Janine. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Y'all are being too hard on Janine. Her compassion knows no bounds. And I can understand why she felt the need to deal with Ava first, alright? Ava was there as a guest in her home, and as somebody who hosts a lot, if you're in my home, I'm going to do everything I can to make you feel comfortable, feel loved, safe, and secure. I don't care who you are. So there was that. On top of all that, Ava was vulnerable. Even Ava admitted she was vulnerable, and we know that, hey, she's a brick. House. Don't demonetize me, please. Ava was vulnerable, and even more, Ava wasn't even going to be there for long. And she wasn't even as long as she thought that she would be there because she left earlier than anyone thought that she would. So it's believable that Janine, with her relationship with Gregory where it was, probably felt like she should take care of the Ava situation first and then apologize to Gregory in private. And I mean, if y'all apologies are like my apologies, you can have a lot of fun apologizing. I typically do it on my knees, and if you do a really good apologizing, you can have some really good fun making up. The long and short of it is that Ava was the bigger priority, no matter how you look at it when you look at it from her point. So elementarians, that's everything you need to know coming out of the Abbott Elementary winter breaks. More so to our relationship, did we miss something in our season recap? Do you want a bit more explanation for something that we said, or do you just plainly disagree and see something differently than we do? Well, let us know down in the comment section below. So, where do we go from here? Well, like I said, I got some theories on how the second half of the season plays out. But for now, make sure to catch new episodes of Abbott Elementary every Wednesday on ABC.